Hi, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Melissa P. Dunn, and I'm going to be hosting this conversation. Tonight, we're going to be talking about blending traditions, exploring where the intersection lies between modern healthcare and herbal medicine. I am your host, is that again, Melissa P. Dunn, CEO of MD Marketing Network, and also a member of the Live Healthy Miami Gardens Communications Subcouncil. We have an exciting hour ahead. We are going to dive into a community powered conversation. We hope to bridge the gap between traditional Caribbean, Haitian, and African American remedies and today's modern healthcare practices. Now, we are thrilled to have two incredible guests with us today, each bringing a unique perspective to our discussion. So please join me in welcoming Michelle Fletcher, who is the founder of the Holistic Business Network, and Dr. Michelle C. Powell, who is the visionary behind Powell Health Solutions. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening. Excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to have a really great conversation today, but before we start the discussion, I want to introduce you to both of these women, both of whom are powerhouses that I know personally. Now, Michelle Fletcher is a woman of Jamaican roots. She is very passionate about holistic health. In fact, she has been a health advocate, mentor, and public speaker for the community. Dr. Powell is a founder of Powell Health Solutions. She has a vision to take your health from average to excellent, providing a full spectrum of medical services under one roof. In this conversation, we aim to explore the rich tapestry of traditional remedies from the Caribbean, Haitian, and African American cultures. We aim to blend the wisdom of our ancestors with the insight of modern health experts like Dr. Powell, like Michelle Fletcher, creating a holistic approach to well-being. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on. I have to catch myself because you're both Michelles.
But I'm not a doctor. He's
right?
A little bit more prestigious, right? Dr. Michelle.
So how about this? So when I say Michelle, I'm talking to you, Michelle Fletcher. And when I say Dr. Powell, that's who I'm talking to. But before I get into the questions, can we just take a minute and share a little bit about your background and your credentials? Michelle Fletcher, go first.
Okay. So my background, I actually was born in England, but my parents are Jamaican. We moved here when I was 10, and I spent many summers going back and forth to Jamaica, right? So, I have a lot of that summer, spending that time with family and just being engulfed in the lifestyle. But my background actually is in IT. I went to college, got a degree in the IT field, worked in corporate for over 10 years. And not somehow, because my passion has always been health, watching numerous family members suffer from various health conditions like diabetes, heart disease, just so many things, high blood pressure. So and cancer. Saw a lot of my family members pass away from cancer. And so it's always been kind of at the forefront of who I am and wondering how I've always been a problem solver. So whenever I see a problem, I automatically go into, well, how do we avoid, or how can we avoid those problems in the future? And so I became very passionate about healthy living over 12 and a half years ago when I started to connect the dots in certain areas. So now I no longer work in the IT field. I am a health coach. I am partnered with a company that helps people get more plant nutrition in their bodies. And I also founded a network of holistic practitioners, services, and products. where people can use that as a resource whenever they're on their health journey. So that is where I am.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. Dr. Powell.
Hi, Dr. Michelle Powell, and I've been a practicing physician for, and I say it's no longer practice because, when you've done this over 25 years, I don't think we're practicing anymore.
You're not, honey, and you're fantastic.
Thank you so much. I entered the health field probably, let me give you background. We share a lot in common, Michelle and I. We're both from Jamaican descent, parents, and I myself was born in Jamaica. Came to the United States, went straight to Brooklyn like all good Jamaicans do, to New York. I know there's a route that goes to England, but there's a large population that usually goes to New York. And we end up in Brooklyn, and I was there until I was about 10 or 11 years old, and we moved to South Florida. And so I've been in South Florida over 40 years. Nobody do not audition here, yeah? Nobody I do not audition. All right? So I've been here over 40 years, and I actually got turned on to my initial desire was to teach. My giftedness from God is education and teaching. That's my gift. And at 6 years old, I was in the emergency room at Jackson North with a broken finger. And sitting there and experiencing that emergency room, I thought was fascinating and amazing. And that's where my passion moved from becoming a teacher as a professional into being a physician. And as I went through my education, just like Michelle spoke about, I went back and forth to Jamaica, being submerged in the culture of the Caribbean, in my summers for a very long time. And so I was able to gain that cultural experience. And it never left me, even while I went through medical school. And I believe I chose the medical school, which is an osteopathic medical school, because it said to me when I went on my interviews, as opposed to being an MD, I chose to be a DO because they believe in treating the body as a unit. And with that foundation, I created my practice to take the body and treat it as a unit and not just organ systems. And in addition, I thought all the medicine out there so focused on disease, 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 disease. And I always wanted to answer the question, why? And then I thought to myself, why are we just going for feeling a little better? Why not? And I like to say I live my life with an exclamation mark and not an explanation mark. And so why not go all the way to excellent? And that's where I said, let me take your health from average to excellent.
Wow, that's fantastic. And that explanation that you just gave about the difference between the MD and the DO, that's the first time that now I have a clear understanding. So MD focuses on the body parts and the DO takes a more holistic approach.
Yes, that's the philosophy behind it. And I gravitate toward the philosophy. As time goes by, of course, sometimes they're blurry lines, but I have held on to that. So if you come to my practice, I always treat the body as a unit and not just a body, but also mind, body, and spirit. You cannot separate the two. And as you all know, I went through my journey with cancer, so that tied in even more that you must treat the body as a unit.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I do want to talk a little bit about your journey later on in the conversation, Dr. Powell. And I'm curious, Michelle, when you decided to make the transition from IT into healthcare, what made you decide to make that switch? I know you talked about having family members that were impacted by chronic disease. Was that the thing that made you decide to kind of focus wholly on health?
I think it was a combination of things between me being a new mother. You become a mother and you start to think bigger, like, wait, you not only have yourself to worry about, but this other human being that you want to remain healthy and you want them to have the best health, and the best life. So that alongside with many of my mother's siblings suffering from dementia, suffering from cancer, and just attending funeral after funeral of things that I thought, wow, I wonder if that could have been prevented. I wonder if,
Yeah.
They would have done something different if they could have avoided pancreatic cancer, if we could have avoided prostate cancer, we could have avoided getting dementia at younger, I feel like a young age of in the 60s. So all those things just tied in to moving me in that direction. And then the whole economy of 2007 kind of crashed, and my world was like, I lost my job and all these things happened. So it was like, God just put me on this path. And funny enough, I'm the only one in my family that's not in the medical field. All three of my siblings are registered nurses.
Oh,
And
wow.
everyone in my family is in the nursing field. And I was like, oh no, I can't tolerate like even seeing myself get an injection. So I couldn't do that. I went into the IP field. That was safe. But here I am,
As a
still
health
touching the
coach
medical
and
field.
advocate, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So you guys mentioned that you're both from of Jamaican descent, as am I. And I grew up, I was really lucky to spend the first 10 years of my life in Jamaica. And I had a multi-generational household, as a lot of Caribbean folk do sometimes. And I remember my great grandmother, Gang is what we used to call her. I remember her taking leaves from an almond tree, soaking them in a concoction, putting them on her head,
Yeah.
and putting a tied, what do you call it? A head wrap. I'm just tired. Putting a head wrap on. And I remember having conversations with her. Gang, why you have that on your head? And she's like, baby, it calmed my nerves. And so I grew up hearing that, and then having to drink the saracy. And once a year, my grandmother gathering all of the children and giving us like this bitter tea to drink to kind of wash you out and clean you out and do a detox. Those are traditions that I grew up with. And I'm curious, is there like, how do you balance that, the traditional piece with you know I have type 2 diabetes, and so I'm drinking cinnamon stick tea at night and in the morning, and it gives me comfort. I don't know if it's working or not, Dr. Powell, but it gives me comfort. How do you balance the traditional medicine with the modern medicine? Like, I'd prefer that over metformin any day.
Yes.
How do you make the
Exactly.
balance, Dr. Powell? How do you tell your patients to balance all of it?
Before I even think about balancing, one of the things I always like to emphasize, especially when I'm teaching, the mind precedes the body.
Hmm.
If you believe that something will help you, the chances of it helping you is much greater than if you believe something will harm you.
Oh, that's good.
If you take something and put it on your head and you believe that this will help you and calm you, there's more likelihood that it would, and it will make you calmer. But if you believe, and I've seen it many, many times with patients coming into my office because of their tradition and their background and their history in the Caribbean and the African descent diaspora, that certain medications given to African descent people is meant to kill them.
I've heard
And,
that.
and walking in with that belief, I don't offer it to them.
Wow.
Even because I know from over 25 years experience that if I offer you poison, you've already said it's poison. What is the likelihood of you drinking it?
Hmm.
So for me to tell somebody you better take this, and I will tell you my early arrogant days, I walked into rooms saying, this is what you need, this is what you're going to take, because this is what is going to work for you. And as I married my own tradition and married my understanding on, came to understand and listen more, I realized that it is more important to work on the person's mind and their belief system to get healing.
Wow.
So to answer your question, I have no problem with you taking cinnamon sticks. I have no problem with you drinking your detox tea, your Viva, and anything else
Yes.
that you believe will assist you in healing. And after you've used that and you come back and we do our blood work and we do assessment on your progress, and I've accepted what you would like to do. And if there's little progress through a hemoglobin A1C, I offer you an alternative. Would you like to try for a moment something that I have seen work? I don't reject what you believe, but I offer you an opportunity to try something else.
Oh my God, Dr. Powell, you have said so many things that is so rare. First of all, you said you listened and you make time to have the conversation. And I find that sometimes folks are rushed in and out of the practice.
Yeah.
And then the second thing you said is that you have it sounds to me like when it comes to this particular topic, the treatment is done in partnership with the patient.
I always say, I have to answer that. It has to be a partnership. In fact, I describe the body as a vehicle. You're the driver. I'm your passenger.
Mm,
I'm your mechanic, but I don't own the car. You own the car. When you leave my office, I have no idea what you're going to do with your car.
true.
I can only guide and direct and give advice, but it's still your car. So ultimately, it will be up to you. And if you've already have a belief system that says, what Dr. Powell just gave me is she tried to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Or if not me, Dr. Powell, the next doctor, whoever, or every other doctor they've been with before has been trying to kill them. You're less likely when you leave my office to execute the things that I have offered. And I'm sure, Michelle, you've had that belief too. I think belief precedes all healing. And in scripture says so as a man thinketh, so that he believes. What you believe in your heart, so shall it be.
Mm-hmm.
It's so consistent through all philosophies. The mind
Yeah.
precedes the body, and your belief system dictates the results.
Mm. Michelle, has that been your experience as a health coach?
Yeah, and I noticed a difference between coaching someone who is from the Caribbean versus someone who's American, right? There's such a cultural difference when you're talking about health and giving advice and what they are accustomed to. So I love how you practice, Dr. Powell, because that does allow them to open their mind. You know, you're giving them the opportunity to try what they feel is going to work best. And if not, then hey, here's something else. But I love that. And it's so true. You really have to work on their mental first to get them to be open to trying things that may work for them.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think, if I might say, Melissa, I think
Yes,
one of
please.
the things that have been missing in, and I'll call it Western medicine, is the ownership.
Hmm.
Is the ownership. And it's so important that if you feel powerless, this is just my roots, this is just my genes, this is just my mother had it, my brother had it, my father have it, we all have it, everybody have the diabetes or the high blood pressure, and you give up the responsibility and the ownership, you find that healing does is much slower and may not occur at all if you've given up the ownership of your health.
Oh, that's good. You know, and Dr. Powell, you are actually more evolved in this topic than I am. And I like to think of myself as a open-minded person, but you know, I have a really good friend of mine whom I love dearly, that kind of suffers from and gets nerve every now and then she gets nerve pain in her face. And she's gone to the doctor, and the doctor has given her medication to help. And as far as we understand, there's really no cure. She just has to take medication to manage. And apparently, they're like 8 pills. And she's like, that's foolishness, man, not take it. And she's like, you know, instead, she does her turmeric and she, you know, she has all of these remedies that she does. And then on occasion, she stops watching the diet, and then it flares up. And when it flares up, now is when she takes the pills. And I'm wondering, is there a way to, I guess, balance it better? I mean, I get what you're saying about respecting and the belief and all of that, but my gosh, you have to wait until, can you not drink the bush tea and take the pills?
Most definitely. And here's one of the things, back to what you were saying about, and humans, unfortunately, sometimes are not very consistent. And one of the things, and if I can be so bold as to say, since it's not my specialty area, this is Michelle's, that modern medicine, or what I call synthetic medicines, synthetic medicines or medications made in labs. They're designed to function much quicker than medications through your diet and through the herbal teas and doing certain, and Michelle, you can attest to this. You do have to spend time eating a certain way, consuming certain types of herbal remedies before you see the results. A classic example, as I often request that to some of my patients who don't want to take medications, I said to them, okay, I need you to follow a strict fat-free diet, no animal products. I want you to now start taking red yeast rice as opposed to simvastatin for your cholesterol. And if I gave them the simvastatin and they took it, that's a tablet for cholesterol. Within 1 month, the cholesterol will lower. When they take only the red yeast rice, it's 8 to 12 weeks, almost 3 months.
Wow, okay.
And that's only because the medications are synthetically designed for expediency. But of course, there's always consequences for having something in the body that is synthetic, that is meant to occur expediently. The body is designed to heal itself, first of all. Two, but you have to be able to cleanse toxins. You have to be able to rejuvenate. You have to be, but that is timing. And unfortunately, for many of us, especially African descent people, we've lost our patience. And we've lost our patience to do the things and wait.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Michelle, talk a little bit about nutrition and diet, because I know that's part of your work, right? Is to get folks to eat healthier and to get more fruits and vegetables in their diet.
Right. And so I think a lot of people would be surprised at how many fruits and vegetables we currently need to eat in order to just maintain good health. And a lot of us aren't getting close to that. And so what they have now, it used to be the food pyramid where it was eat 5. We have now gone from 5 fruits and vegetables a day to 9 to 13 servings for adults. So for a child, 7 servings. and for adults, anywhere from 9 to 13. So if you're an athlete, they recommend the higher end of 13. Even if you're an extreme athlete, they recommend way more than 13, like closer to 16 to 18.
Wow.
Because there's so many reasons for this. Our food quality has depleted over the years. A lot of our food is sprayed with toxic chemicals. Our food is not allowed to vine ripen. So coming from the Caribbean, where I go to Jamaica and they're picking things fresh off the vine and you're eating it and you're getting like key nutrients, because the vine ripening stage is where the majority of nutrients are found in our plant foods and our fruits and vegetables. And because of how many people they are trying to feed, they're picking things early, they're picking them from other sides of the country or from other continents and shipping them here. So during that process, one, we don't have a lot of the nutrients because it wasn't vine ripened. Two, the transportation to get it to us and on the shelf is lost even more nutrients. So by the time we're eating it, it's not what our grandparents were eating. And so this is a number of things that are bombarding our bodies, and our food can't keep up with it. And so they're constantly saying we have to eat more and more to get the vital nutrients our bodies need. And it's not easy. It's not easy.
Mm.
And so you see disease on the rise because no matter how well you try to eat, you just have a lot of things against you. And so I actually do share solutions and ways that people can get more plant foods in their bodies, whether you're doing smoothies or salads or soups where you could sneak things in. I actually recommend supplementation, but you need to supplement right, because there's a lot of companies out here now really jumping on the bandwagon to make money. The vitamin industry is out here and there's all kinds of things that could be what you find on the shelf, but you really want to look for top of the line key nutrients when you're looking at supplements. I recommend something that is whole food supplementation versus isolated. There's a lot of isolated vitamins out there. Unless your doctor is telling you you are deficient in that one thing, would I recommend that? But most of the time when you're eating the whole food or you're getting whole food supplementation, your body knows how to take a little bit of the thing that you're lacking and then use it in synergy with all the other hundreds, tens of thousand things that are also in that fruit or vegetable. Your body knows what to do with it and how to use it the right way and how to make that 5 milligrams of vitamin C in an apple feel like it's 1,000 milligrams, because it's working in synergy with a lot of other key nutrients that God put on this earth to work in our bodies a certain way. And so, yeah, there's a lot of work we have to do. And I think understanding that, like, we're in a time now where our food, I've watched our food quality change significantly in the past 12 and a half years. And I can't even imagine, well, I can, because being from England, I see the quality control they have on their food versus what we have here. And then even going to the islands, like I was in Jamaica this summer and I was just like, oh, you could taste the difference in our food. And so food is really important. A lot of the medicine that we need for our bodies is in the foods, but we're not eating the foods, or maybe the food is lacking now versus what we used to have.
Would you agree with that, Dr. Powell? Food is medicine, that concept?
Oh, most definitely. And we see it, and again, I'll give the example of something so simple as we have significant obesity in this country. I mean, we're looking at in the African descent population, over 60% is either overweight or obese, which means your BMI is over 25, and if it's over 30, you're obese. And with that being said, that means that the composition of the body has more fat than muscle. Okay. We need a little bit of fat to keep us insulated and warm. But when it becomes a lopsided equation where you have more fat than you have muscle protects the bones, and muscle functions and metabolizes our food, our nutrients much faster. Right. So right now, over 60% is obese. So you say to somebody, what can you do to change that equation, right? Well, number one thing across the board will always be stop eating the way you're currently eating. So the question is, how are you eating? How many of your meals in a day are out the ground or off the tree? That's the question I always ask.
That's good. That's a good question.
If 50%, I make it very simple. It's not complicated. Even for my diabetic patients, I said, half your plate, half your meals, out the ground, off the tree. That's it. Now, the question that we have to solve as a country, if we really want a healthy country, why is the cost so high for eating healthily? You said the numbers goes up to 13. The cost of eating in that equation I gave, 50%, half your plate, off the tree and out the ground. If you walk in, a bag of apples has gone up to $6.
Wow.
An avocado is $2. A grapefruit, $3. Now, multiply that number by, you said 13 in a day. So if I had to consume, say, 13 grapefruits, and I'm spending $3 each, do you see the cost that the average American has to expend in order to maintain a healthy life? And that is an economic question that this nation has to answer if it
Absolutely.
really wants to solve the issue of obesity and disease in this country. Because if you're limited resources financially to expend $130 daily for your family to eat that above 50% is unconscionable. Not when the housing has gone up, not when
Yes.
lights and water and all the other things. So as we try to live the healthy life, because it's not that we don't know we shouldn't eat processed foods and fast foods, but choice is removed when the equation of cost enters and survival for families.
You know, I often wonder if it's not more profitable for us to be a sick, overweight nation.
Oh, most definitely.
You
To some
know,
people, to some people.
like, I mean,
Exactly.
think about that example. You just really kind of brought it home. So if it's that expensive for fruits and we need 13, servings of it a day and you have a family of 4, so now you're spending, $100, $200, $300 a week on food versus if you were to go to KFC and get a bucket of chicken, that's like dinner and lunch maybe
Yes.
for a family of 4. So it's cheaper to keep us eating unhealthy, and then that then feeds into the whole pharmaceutical industry, right? Because then the more unhealthy we are is the more we need medicine. And the people that are at a disadvantage of all of this are communities of color, like City of Miami Gardens, like the city of Lauderdale,
Yes.
where food deserts are a reality,
Yes.
where health disparities are a reality. And so then it brings it right back home to this whole idea of, when a Haitian or a member of the African diaspora says, you know what, let me just take my bush tea.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then it becomes a cycle.
I'm doing something. At least I'm trying something.
Yeah, and for sure. Especially, like when I go to my dad lives in Lauderdale Lakes, and I love going to his house because in the back I kind of sort of feel like I'm back in Jamaica because he has mango and avocado and sugar cane and June plum and like a mint and the,
Oh, wow.
all of those things, and he has his fever grass.
Yes.
And I'm saying, if you can manage to grow your own food,
Mm.
how
Keyword,
powerful is that?
keyword manage. Because unfortunately, being in this society, the education to grow your own food is not readily available and apparent. For instance, how many elementary school children still remember when you're in elementary school, you got your little cup and you got your little dirt, and they gave you
Yeah.
a seed, and you put the seed in there, and we all watch week after week for our little plant to grow?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
How many schools are still participating in that process? And not more than just participating, encouraging that mindset of creating gardens, of creating healthy food for yourself.
Mm,
That's introduction has to come very early, and it has to be fostered. It has to
it
be
does.
fostered and encouraged. And then you look for space, because you need space to grow these things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, you have an innovative approach for that, right? Your garden towers.
Love.
Yeah. So I actually, a part of what I do is also a vertical gardening system that grows tons of produce in a small area. And I've gotten them into a lot of schools
Yay.
um, here in Broward and Dade County, because it's important for children to learn where food comes from. We're living with a generation of children that don't even know where food comes from because there's so much
Mhm.
processed food.
Yeah.
And so seeing them incorporate these systems in the classroom, because they can be grown indoors or outdoors. Some schools have them on the inside, some have them on the outside. I mean, I have some at Boyd Anderson High School, and they actually purchased them for the special needs children. And they loved it. They actually took over and put the system together. It was just like so amazing to see them light up to be able to be a part of something like that. And then within like 4 weeks, so this system allows them to grow food faster than you traditionally would in soil. And they got to watch it every day. They got to eat it. And when children are more involved in how food is produced, they're more likely to eat it. So I was a very picky eater as a child. So I wish I had this, but I'm wiser, older and wiser. But to know that they're growing up and trying things that I probably wouldn't have tried because they grew it and they were watching it, it's incredible. And so it's just really implementing things like that to change the mindset of this upcoming generation, because we're not in the Caribbean. And so we're in a country where we're so far removed from nature,
Yeah.
right? We're so far removed from that. And so bringing that back in is important.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I agree. I agree. I want to go back a little bit to the way you practice medicine, Dr. Powell. And I find it really refreshing. And I wonder if maybe you can offer some tips for, well, before I ask for the tips, here's what I imagine. I imagine that my grandmother, not even imagine, I know this to be true because at the tail end of her life, I was with her a lot as she was getting care. And my grandmother, with her generation of Caribbean women, didn't really feel comfortable talking to the doctor.
Yes.
They go into the room and whatever the doctor says,
Mm-hmm.
yes, doctor,
Yes,
okay,
doctor. Okay.
doctor, yes,
Mm-hmm.
doctor. And when the doctor leaves, and I said, Mama,
But I'll take that.
wait, I mean, I don't know what he said, right? And
Yeah.
so that's one, right? This whole not really trusting, not really being open, not really having a real conversation with the doctor, and taking whatever the doctor says is gospel. And then if you think the doctor's an idiot, then you're just going to let it go through one ear and out the other, and you're not going to do it anyways, right? So there's that. And then the other thing is feeling so much mistrust that you're not even going to tell the doctor that you're taking surrogacy. You're just not going to say anything.
Right.
How can we bridge the gap?
I think you're addressing maybe three different things. And I'm going to start at the tail end, which is on the provider side.
Mm-hmm.
On the provider side, our education and training has to have more incorporation of diversity and cultures. They're starting to do that more in educational facilities and in medical schools, but they need more.
Yeah.
They need to have more training on communicating with individuals from different cultures and customs. When you can communicate better, you're more likely to create a connection, because no one will trust you if you don't have a connection. And for some cultures, that connection is in customs.
Mm.
And for other cultures, connection is in education. I have cultures that I deal with where it doesn't matter that you didn't come from the same island, you don't eat the same food, but it comes from a culture that respects education.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the doctor, and we respect doctors. And so what you say, we do. I have
Mm.
those patients. But then I also have other patients who also respect doctors, but mistrust medication. And so they'll be respectful in the room and shake their head and say yes and say okay and get the medicine out of my office because I have a pharmacy and put it in the corner, dash it where when them go outside the door.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So on the one hand, we deal with educating the practitioner of culture and customs. Then secondly, we have to also educate the patient that they are the author and owner. And by withholding information, it can put them in jeopardy. I'll give you a classic example. Many people can't afford medications. They want to take the medication, but they cannot afford it. And they're embarrassed to disclose that information. So I say you have to take 30 units of insulin 3 times a day, but they can only afford to buy enough to take it once a day. But
Mm.
when they come back, they'll say, yes, I've been taking the insulin. But they don't disclose to me because of their embarrassment that they can't afford the quantity of 3 times a day. So they are taking it,
Mm.
but not disclosing they're not taking it sufficiently to meet the expected goal. So we have to create the environment where the communication is trusted and the provider and the patient feels enough comfort to be upfront and honest. So a provider can't walk in, you're going to do this, you're going to say this, da, 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 and the patient can't go in, okay, 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 okay. And we make the bridge by creating an environment that says we're working together.
We're working together. That's really powerful. I like that a lot. Michelle, can you share some like a personal favorite traditional remedy or practice that you find practical, something that's effective for the overall well-being?
Oh, well, let me think. There's so many little things you can do. Drinking warm lemon water first thing in the morning is a really good practice. Like one of the first things you do kind of gets the bowels moving. It helps to like flush out, things that are sitting around. So warm lemon water is a really simple thing you can do first thing in the morning. I'm big on herbal teas. I love to drink herbal tea without sugar or any sweeteners. I'm big on smoothies because I know a smoothie can just kind of throw a bunch of things in it. Like when you don't feel so good, you usually don't have much of an appetite, but a smoothie, you can throw a bunch of really good things in it, full of nutrients, and kind of sip on it. So your body's getting some vital nutrients while it's trying to overcome whatever is happening, right? Supplementation, like I said, if you have the right supplements, really good supplements, that's something I do every day. What else? Those are just some of the tricks. I know, like, if you want to have a daily routine, like smoothies, soups, or salads are just all ways you can sneak a lot of nutrients into your diet. So I made lentil soup today, actually. I made lentil soup this morning, and I threw sweet potatoes in there, and I throw like all kind of veggies. You can throw some kale in at the end. So those are just ways that, and then you'll have a pot for a few days. So it's something that you can just munch on. It's pretty filling. And then salads, it's always a good thing. But one of my tricks with salads is making them in mason jars so that you can store them in your fridge, and, meal prepping them like on the weekend, and you can just grab and go during the week. So you're not having to put together a salad every night. You're just grabbing your salad out the fridge. The dressing is at the bottom of the salad, and you're good to go. So I think it's really key when you prepare your meals. It helps you to stay away from bad choices because you have things prepared and ready to go and with you, versus when we're so hungry, and they say hangry, that you just get anything, right?
Yeah,
You're pulling into the drive-through and it's not the best, but you're hungry.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So preparation is key. And just having a good balance of the things you're eating, making sure you have some protein with the carbs, and, carbs are fruits and vegetables too. So protein with the carbs and some healthy fats. I hate hearing when people are avoiding certain things. I'm like, why would you avoid carbs? Carbs give you energy. You need energy. Carbs are not the enemy. The kind of carbs you're eating may be the enemy, but not all carbs are the enemy. Protein, your body needs protein for muscle building. Like Dr. Powell said, you need to have more muscle than you have fat. So you need protein. And then healthy fats, like they've really given fat a bad name, but we need healthy fats for the way our brain operates. Your brain is made up mostly of fat. So you need that in order to have, I know in my family, I'm very aware of having healthy fats and taking omegas, because my family suffers from dementia, my mom's side of the family. So I just want to have a healthy brain as I get older, and having those healthy fats is very vital to that.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for those tips. What about you, Dr. Powell? What about you?
Wow, healthy tips. The first health tip that I always, you talked about nutrition, so I'm going to talk about movement. Movement. Life is movement. Anything that does not move dies. And so I believe that we must incorporate movement throughout our day, every day. And it doesn't have to be formal, like going to the gym or being in an aerobic class or a yoga class. I'm talking about not sitting in a chair in front of a television for 8 hours, or even sitting at your job in front of a computer for another 8 hours. I said to a young lady today who was starting to have swelling in her legs, she goes, I don't eat salty foods. I mean, I don't eat potato chips, but my legs are swelling. But her job, after investigating, she sits at a computer for 8 hours a day. So I said, every 2 hours, set your phone to go off, to stand, roll your neck, roll your shoulders, walk around your desk, and sit back down. Because that sitting, in her case, caused a lot of fluid to be retained. And there are many reasons why that was happening, but movement is essential. So that's the first tip that I'll give. The second tip is learning to communicate with the health professional that you've chosen. And how can you do that? First and foremost, determine if they're the right person for you.
Oh, that part.
Yeah, first determine if they're the right person for you. There's some people who just want to be told what to do. What do I need to do? Just tell me, tell me. And then there are other people who want to tell you. I have a patient that all I do is just sit and listen because she walks in telling me exactly what she's going to do and what she's not going to do. So I said, okay, listen. But if you team up a non-lister with a teller, that's a bad combination.
True that.
That's a bad. So assess you're with the right provider. If you want and do not like dealing with medications because if you have a large mistrust, then you want to find a more holistic provider. Someone will give you alternative methods to take care of whatever condition you may be challenged with. So do your homework. And the final thing I would say, never marry any one system. Don't marry it. And why do I say that? We are dynamic beings. What you could eat when you were a kid may give you gas and indigestion when you're menopausal like I am. Okay? And you gotta roll.
Body changes.
You gotta roll with the dynamics of the changes that we go through in life. So you may say, I'm only always going to eat beans. And then you realize you turn 40 and beans are not your friend. They better go through some, as my grandmother said, boil it up a little more, pour a little salt on it, make it boil some more, and you won't have no gas. But it may be an adaptation you may have to take. So understand that we're dynamic beings, and what may have been good for you at one stage in your dynamic life may not still be good as you move through another stage of your life. And adapt and change and don't resist.
Oh, I love that.
Preach.
Adapt,
He's speaking to me.
change, and don't resist. Man, listen, that's like a golden nugget for everything from healthcare to business to relationships. That's a drop the mic comment right there, Dr. Powell. That's a drop the mic comment. You know, I'm curious, and I'm going to ask each of you to answer this question. You know, going back to, you know, the person like my great grandmother or my grandmother, who grew up with their traditions, they're now here. And, you know, Dr. Powell, I hear you when you say that belief has a lot to do with it, and you kind of allow the patient to kind of partner with you to make that balance, right? But let's say that you have a doctor that is not as open as you. Like, how do we as patients, how do we navigate that? How do we have a conversation with a physician who feels pressured by the insurance company to only have, you know, a drive-through visit? How do we navigate that?
It's challenging for the patients because there are a lot of hidden secrets in the healthcare industry. And I have to call them secrets because providers know it, but the patients may not know it. For instance, in my office, there's a thing called scheduling, and most practices have scheduling. And when I teach class to the seniors on every other Wednesdays in Miami Gardens, they get shocked when I tell them, your visit's 15 minutes, okay? On the average office visit, it's 15. Now, if you're a new patient, you're going for a physical, they may give you 30. But that's a hidden secret because if it was adequately communicated, they would understand, and this is what I do in my classes, what you have to prepare. When you make that appointment, be very clear if you have what the length of time is your appointment. Be clear about why you're going there. If it's for a follow-up of blood work, that's a 15-minute visit. So you'll be upset, you'll feel rushed and hurried. When you decide to follow up on blood work, you now want to address the fact that your back hurts. You went to see this other doctor and he wants to give you some other medication. And your cousin came over and told you that maybe you should see another doctor, and you're going off into important things for you, definitely. But you've scheduled yourself a 15-minute visit. And those hidden things, if they start coming to light so that everyone's on the same playing field, then a patient can make a decision and be active. Oh, I noticed that you scheduled me to follow up on blood work, but I need you to adjust the schedule or give me another appointment time because I also need to discuss options for my renal disease. And I know we won't be able to do that in the 50-minute blocks that you've usually set. And that's fair. And that's fair. And you won't feel hurried, and you won't feel if that communication occurs. So hidden secrets have to come to light.
So it sounds like the real way to bridge the gap between medical mistrust, the real way to bridge the gap between traditional and herbal medicine is really communication.
Yes. Yes.
That's really powerful.
And empowerment. Empowerment.
Yeah.
You can, and a patient can realize that I'm not getting what I need where I am. And I know many patients, when I talk to them, they're not my patients, but when I teach and they tell me their stories, and I realize there's a mismatch. This marriage is not a good marriage. But they don't feel empowered to change providers. And the secret is you can.
You sure can.
You don't have to stay with someone that you're not comfortable with, who doesn't speak your language, who doesn't give you permission to ask questions, and does not respect your decisions.
Wow, those are powerful words. Thank you for that wisdom. Michelle, do you have any final words of wisdom you might want to share?
Yeah, I love everything that Dr. Powell just shared, because that really was my father's experience. My father lived until he was 90. Wow. And I think one of the key reasons that he lived to that age was, my mother took really good care of him. He was taking his supplements, and my siblings are all nurses. So they were his health advocates. They went with him to appointments. They were able to speak the same language and understand what the doctor was saying, because a lot of times even I may go to a doctor and not understand what the doctor is talking about because it's way over my head. And so I think of my dad's generation, right? He would have been 90, turning 94 this year. My dad never had to go to the doctor until he got diabetes, or maybe it was prostate cancer first and then he got diabetes. So he was one of those typical Jamaicans that was like, I don't need to go. He never wanted to go to the doctor. But having my siblings as advocates for him and being able to translate and to have that communication with the doctors was so helpful. And I think of so many patients that don't have that. And just like, having a doctor like Dr. Powell, where she's so open, and I just see you don't have a lot of those doctors. But I think that is so important. Having an advocate, if you don't feel that you are empowered enough to do those things. And even Tom Joyner used to do this when he was on the air. He would say, take a friend to the doctor day, right? So it was like you went together, you partnered up. So you could kind of advocate for each other. I think it's just powerful. So that was so good.
Yeah. I love that. That's one of the campaigns that we did for years in Live Healthy Miami Gardens. Take a loved one to the doctor day campaign. Right, so yeah, for sure. Awesome. Good tips, Michelle. What about you, Dr. Powell? Any final words of wisdom?
I guess the final word, I think everything that we've said here is so important, and I hope all the listeners share. One of the things we, from the African descent population and the Caribbean population, we culturally know we should do is share. Share the wisdom. If we, whatever was heard today that resonated with you, share with somebody. The
Yes.
more we share really solid information, and we spend enough time sharing gossip. You know who get married, you know who have baby, don't marry yet, you know. We spend enough time on
True
God.
that.
If we now spend just 10 more minutes on raising the health understanding and education of alternatives, natural, even medicinal things that we use in this country. Just raise it just through conversations and sharing, like what we're doing now. We will be better as a people and as a country, just to share more.
I love that. Sharing, communicating, understanding that your mind influence the speed and the impact of your healing.
Yes.
Those are all great tips, great tips. Lynn says, amazing group of ladies, inspiring and knowledgeable. Thank you so much for joining. Those of us who are on Facebook, those of you who are live with us on Zoom, thank you for watching. And if you're watching the replay, you know what? Take heed of some of these suggestions and maybe pick one or two and put it into practice. Ladies, thank you so much for joining this conversation. I really enjoyed it. The hour went by very quickly, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Thank you for having me. Thank
Yes,
you.
Oh,
thank you for
Great
having
talking
us.
with you, Michelle. It was wonderful.
my
Oh,
pleasure.
same
Thank you,
here.
Melissa. And Michelle, Melissa, you know
Yes.
you need some yam for that.
Oh, you see me take out the fat.
But yeah, man, me say you take it out. You better get some yam. Not true, Michelle? You need to get
Yeah,
some yam.
true.
Guys, the menopause is real. It's real.
It's real.
Thank
It's
you so
real.
much for
Next talk.
watching.
Next talk.
Next talk. Next
Yes,
talk.
that's a good conversation.
Bye, guys. Take
Thank you
care.
so much for watching, everyone. I want you to stay tuned. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be kicking off a new series called Roots and Recipes. And Roots and Recipes is a really important opportunity. We have master chefs. We have chef from we have Chef Creole is one of our chefs. Lovely's restaurant, Lorna's restaurant, and we're going to be exploring healthier alternatives to Caribbean cuisine. And I'm really excited about this project because it's an opportunity for you to come in person to Betty T. Ferguson. And we're going to be having a cooking demonstration from our master chefs that's also going to be broadcast on the CW network. So stay tuned. Keep following Live Healthy Miami Gardens. We're going to be posting. We only have a limited number of tickets for the live taping, and it's going to be free. And we're also, the chef's going to cook, and you're going to get a chance to eat. So stay tuned. Yes, stay tuned. And I look forward to seeing you soon. And remember, as always, be kind and loving to yourself. It's our goal and our vision that Live Healthy Miami Gardens can create a huge impact on the health and well-being of the residents of Miami Gardens. So thank you for joining us. Be well, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.